Yes, people, Manscaped is back, but this time it's not for below the belt grooming. Manscaped brings to you the Beard Hedger, the best product on the market when it comes to beard trimmers. The Beard Hedger is unique due to its number of gradient settings. As someone who's purchased this, I won't turn to any other beard trimmer. Check it out for yourself at manscaped.com. And don't forget to use code FTM20 to get 20% off of this product.
Yes, good afternoon, people. Hope you're all well. Big up to every single one of you for being in the chat room. And make sure you do me a favor. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit subscribe to the channel. We are getting very close to the big 30. 30k subscribers. We are nearly there. We've got over 26,000 of you now that are a part of the 12th Man community. Please hit the like and subscribe button because it's absolutely free. The other thing you need to do is to support our sponsors, Manscaped. If you do need a Christmas present, or if you do need a treat for yourself, or if it's a birthday present, then please make sure you click on the link in the description or in the pinned comment section now, and that will take you through to manscaped.com. Once you add the Beard Hedger to your checkout, you should get 20% off. Or if you do need to use the code FTM20 for 20% off, then please make sure that you do that. There's more products coming, people. There's quite a new few products actually from Manscaped. Go and check it out, manscaped.com. You all know about it. Go and sort it. And you don't have to have a beard. It's not just about below the belt. It is also about beard trimmers, but it's also about shavers if you don't have a beard as well. So please make sure that you go and look at some of their products up there. Today, we're going to be talking about the Arteta press conference, which was around about an hour or so ago. We're going to go through every word and talk about what that might look like for our future in the coming games. And injury news is key for this weekend and beyond. We've got Inter Milan after this weekend in the midweek, which is going to be a very tricky game at the San Siro. And then we go to Stamford Bridge. 3 games, in my opinion, that are very important for the way our season looks and for our confidence. We need to bounce back with some wins. It's been too long now since we won a game of football in the Premier League. And the game against Preston was one that just boosted our confidence a little bit, keeps us in that Carabao Cup. Big up to everybody that's in the chat room. Big up to Vinny. Big up to Kingsman, Tammy. Mum is in the chat as well, which is great. Pete in the chat, which is great. Geordie Toon for life. I hope you enjoyed the preview, my friend, with Warren Barton and myself over on Loaded Mag NUFC. Go and check that one out if you haven't done so already. Matt, big up to you. Fizzy, JRE. We've got Geordie Toon for life. We've got Olban. We've got Denton. We've got Suj. Big up to you, my bro. And I want to say a massive hello to my nephew, Max. Max, I hope you're well, mate, and I'll see you very soon this weekend for sure. So hello to every single one of you. Do me a favor, people. If you haven't hit the like and subscribe already, then please make sure that you do that. We're going to go through the Arteta press conference and talk a little bit about what his thoughts are on some of the players' comebacks. I thought that was quite interesting when he was talking about potential not setbacks, but injury comebacks, I suppose, is the way to look at it. So there we go. Lebo, thank you for saying hello to my nephew. Max will be very happy. Look at that. Big up, Max. And hello to you, Max. Look, we're going to go through it now. We're going to talk about the injury news. We're going to talk about how we are setting up against Newcastle, because for me, there's an opportunity for us to get a little bit of revenge at St. James's Park. We all know what happened last year. It weren't great. It wasn't a particularly great performance from Arsenal. I don't think we were in a great range of form at the moment. I don't think that Newcastle were in as much of an inconsistent form as they have been this season. I think if you remember, they were back in the Champions League. They were playing good football. They'd beaten PSG. Their fan base were on a high because they'd managed to get Champions League football under Eddie Howe. We're in a scenario now where we are playing them at a fairly good time. I know they've just won against Chelsea in the Carabao Cup, but they haven't been particularly consistent in the Premier League. I tipped them to do well this season. I really did. I believed they would go close to the Champions League places with 1 game a week, and they still can. But I feel like there's going to be too much now for them to do ahead of Villa and Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal and City. I think that top 5 is pretty much set in stone in my mind until things change. So, look, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Big up to Melina. I hope you're well. Oops, wrong one. Sorry, Nando, that's you. Big up to Nando as well. But big up to Melina. Great to see you at the game at the weekend against Liverpool. I hope that you're doing well. Make sure you go and follow Miss Melina over on all of her content as well. Okay, let's get to it then, shall we? Because there's been quite a lot spoken about this morning, or this afternoon, should I say, with Mikel Arteta. I'm going to bring every word to you from the Arsenal.com website. We're going to go through it. Look, first of all, there's a real serious question, and I actually did want to bring this up. Valencia is one of my favourite cities. Valencia is one of the best places I've ever been to. Over in Spain, there's amazing places, there's amazing countries to go to as well across the world. Valencia is one of the best places I have been, and it is absolutely horrendous what is going on over there at the moment with the floods, with the trauma, with the tragedy, and we send all of our thoughts and sympathy to the people of that city. And you know, you have all of our support over here in England and I'm sure across the globe. And Mikel Arteta said pretty much those words, has sympathy for what's going on over in Spain, because, of course, it's not just Valencia. It has now, gone across the country. Before we start to talk about football, I'd like to talk about the terrible disaster that's affecting my country at the moment. I want to send from our side our thoughts, support, and sympathy to everyone affected, families and individuals. Obviously, all of the countries pulling together to try to find the best solution in this difficult moment. And from here, I want to show my full support and ask everybody in the way that they can to support such a terrible thing that's happened. Now, look, it is horrendous. And sometimes it takes away football. It takes football into perspective. It brings football into perspective. And it also looks at some of the horrendous tragedies that goes on across the world, that sometimes we just wake up and get on with our day and forget what is happening around us. And let's be real, Spain are close neighbours to us. They've always been great with us, and it's always been a fantastic place to visit. They've always made English people feel welcome over there, whether you go to Barcelona, whether you go to Valencia, whether you go to Madrid. Everybody comes back with unbelievable thoughts, and Spain certainly are in our thoughts, that's for sure. So big up to Mikel for that. I could not agree more. Then he starts to talk about injury news. Gabriel is the first one he spoke about. He says, we have a training session today. If he can complete that, he'll be available. He hasn't had any training sessions yet, but if he's able to do that today, he'll be available to be in the squad. That to me says Gabriel's going to be fine. I've got to say, I'm a huge lover of what Gabriel has brought to Arsenal. I'm going to say this. Other than Martin Odegaard, I think he's been Arteta's best signing. £27 million as a 23-year-old. He's now 26 or 27. One of Arteta's first signings and one of Arteta's best signings. He complements Saliba so well. People sometimes believe that Saliba complements Gabriel. I think it's probably right both ways. Gabriel is so important to this team and pivotal and vital to what we do. Not just from set pieces, but his defensive qualities has improved no end. He doesn't have any of those bozo moments anymore that people say, bozo gene. No, they've gone. They've been brushed under the carpet and staying there. For me, Saliba has definitely been one of the best defenders in the world, but he wouldn't have been as great without somebody like Gabriel next to him. He needs to play at the weekend. We need him tomorrow badly. And I hope that he's fit. It sounds like he's going to be. It sounds promising. He said similar to Saka and Timber at the weekend, just gone. They both played. I expect to see Gabriel, who he says isn't that bad of an injury. Then he talks about Calafiori, Ben White and Odegaard, which is very interesting, actually, because I wasn't aware about Ben White. I know that he missed the game against Preston, but I assumed he was being rested because he played against Liverpool at centre-back. Calafiori and Odegaard are out, definitely. Now, there are rumours that Calafiori will be out for a few weeks. I don't know what that looks like game time. I imagine that he could probably try to get back after the international break. There was rumours that Martin Odegaard, who has been training on grass for the last few days, could make the Inter Milan game on the bench. I would save him for the Chelsea game personally. And if he's not 100%, I would just save him for after the international break. But Calafiori and Odegaard are definitely out tomorrow, and we need them back very, very soon. Ben White, he says we don't know yet. He hasn't trained yet. He couldn't train. He couldn't get involved. We're going to have to wait and see if he's available. Now, that doesn't mean he's ruling him out, but it does sound like he's doubtful. Now, there's opportunities to look at options as to what we could do if we were to be potentially looking at Partey playing there, or maybe he wants to play Timber there and Zinchenko at left back, or maybe he wants to do Kivior at left back. But for me, I think, we just keep Partey at right back, Timber at left back, and then we can play Rice, Marino, and Trossard. That's what could happen. Or, of course, Nwaneri, which we'll come on to in a minute. So Ben White, I hope doesn't sound too... To be honest, none of those three sound very unavailable for long periods of time. And I think after the international break, we'll have everybody back. So let's see what happens there. He was asked on if there is a concern about the gap at the top of the table. He said, you want to be first. You want to win every game. We know the situations that we have to play with this season, but we're right in the mix. We know the tough challenge that we're going to face tomorrow, but we're fully ready for it. Now, a lot of people are saying that Arsenal's title race is going to be too hard now. 5 points is too much. 4 points, of course, behind Liverpool as well. Look, I disagree. I don't think that it's over yet. Of course, it's going to be difficult. I mean, I had us finishing second anyway, right? But I don't think you can say with 10 games in that it's over. We're not even a quarter of the way through the season yet, right? So we have to look at it seriously. What we can't afford to do is lose any more games. Now, I'm not saying we can't lose any more games for the whole of the season, but we can't lose any more games during this period of time, which has been difficult for Arsenal. Because that momentum, it just kind of kills you. And then it's very, very hard to claw back. Very, very hard. You're always chasing the pack. You're winning, but so are they, and there's still that gap, and it's frustrating. The other thing we don't want to do is if they do drop points, whether it be Liverpool against Brighton or Man City against Bournemouth this weekend, we don't want to draw or lose because then we don't claw anything back. So what I mean by that is let's just say both of them draw. Bournemouth manage to hold out and they take a point against Man City at Bournemouth. And Liverpool at Anfield slip up again and they draw with Brighton. Arsenal draw, it's still 4 and 5 points. Yeah? We want to make sure that we make up that 2-point gap to Liverpool and that 3-point gap. That's what we need. Because with having to still play them once and having to see both of them, Liverpool and Man City, play against each other, there's a long way to go. So we need to win every single game and bring up as many points as possible. And there was a really good point Igal made the other night, actually. He said we can afford to lose 10 to 12 more points. And that seems a hell of a lot. But actually, he's not wrong. Because even if we did, it would put us on 95 points or 93 points, which should be enough to win the league. So that means we can lose 10 to 12 more points, which doesn't sound like many games. It sounds like a lot of points, but it's not many games. That's basically like losing 3 more. That's basically like losing 3 and drawing 1. That's all we can do for the rest of the season in the last 29 games. So if we do that, we need to head for 90 plus points. 92, 95, 97 would be amazing. That's what the aim should be. So look, let's see how far and close we can get to that. Okay, let's keep going. Last season's trip to St James's Park, he said it's part of the past, part of the situation that's happened. You learn from it, take a lot of positives as well, and we moved on. Look, we did move on from it. It was obviously massive drama. I was there. It was the same weekend. The reason I know that is because it was my birthday weekend, which it is. This Sunday is my birthday, and it last year was exactly the same. The Saturday night was my birthday. We lost the game. We went out with my dad and the boys, and we had a good night in Newcastle. But it kind of put a bit of a dampener on it because, of course, we lost the game. Now, there was a massive incident about how we lost it. 1-0, VAR. Was it over the line? Was it a foul on Gabriel? Was it offside? They pretty much checked everything and decided that it was a goal. Now, look, we're in a situation this time that we can't be looking at the referees. We cannot be looking at referee decisions, VAR decisions, red card sport. We've got to look at ourselves. Let's get across the line. We should be able to. We're better than them. We're playing better than them. We're a better team than them. And I think even though we've dropped a little bit, they've not particularly been on amazing form either. They'll be confident because they're at home. And last season, they beat us. So, of course, they're going to be confident. They just come off the back of a win in the Cup. But so have we. Let's go and take the game to them. That's what I say. Okay, let's keep going. On if the standard of refereeing has improved since then. My intention was not that the comments worked. I have to say what I feel on the day. They're certainly trying their best. Now, this one makes me laugh. What do you think of the referees, Mikel? They're certainly trying their best to improve. That is a very polite way of saying they're trying, but then still not getting it right. And to be fair, he's right. He is. Every weekend we're talking about referees, not just Arsenal fans. Everybody's talking about them. We're going into every single fixture at the moment asking the question, what did you think of the ref? Was that VAR decision right? Should he have gone to the screen? Should they have pulled that and looked at that, gone to VAR? Unfortunately, we're talking about it too much. So there we go. This is talking about Liverpool and the game against Liverpool. He said if he learned something new about the group in the Liverpool game, unfortunately, a lot of things happened we didn't even plan for. I think he's talking about injuries. I was suspecting with the size of squad that we had to be very adaptable in the season, and that's something that we worked on from day one in pre-season. But obviously, to not be adaptable, especially in certain scenarios, for sure the team showed an incredible capacity to compete, be better than the opponent in many moments. But it's true that in the second half, very early again, things happened that affected the rest, and we are where we are. So that's really an interesting point for me. Against Liverpool, I thought we had a brilliant opportunity to be going 3-1 up and 2-0 up, but we weren't able to for whatever reason, whether it was Mikel's tactics not being attack-minded enough, being too negative, or whether it was because we didn't have the personnel. But look, we definitely had a scenario at 2-1 where we should have won the game. And unfortunately, we got injuries to Timber and Gabriel. And that left-hand side was replaced by Kivior and Lewis Skelly, who, did a great job, but let's be real, are nowhere near the level of Gabriel and Timber. And that allowed Nunez and Salah to get in. With Timber and Gabriel still on that pitch, I think we win the game 2-1, people. And this is why injuries can massively affect your season. Red cards can massively affect your season. And that is why I understand and have sympathy for the Arsenal fans that are getting frustrated by it. But we have to look at that in a different way. We have to look at it in a more positive way and say, right, what can we do about that? What can happen so that we are in a scenario each season that we go, right, do you know what? Arsenal are going to have something unthinkable happen. Their first 11 is going to get injured on the first day of the season. Is their second 11 good enough? If the answer is no, they haven't done enough in the summer transfer window. I'm not saying you need 11 players that are all the same quality of the first 11. That's never going to happen in any team across the world, right? You have an A team and a B team wherever you are, right? First team and a reserve team. But your reserve team needs to be of quality to be able to compete at that level. And there's certain areas of the pitch that I don't think we have managed to secure players that are good enough for that top quality. They're good enough for top 4, top 6. We need good enough for a title. We need players, I'm going across the years now, that can come on and do an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and a Teddy Sheringham that Manchester United had. We need players that can come on and do a Michael Carrick and a Nicky Butt that Manchester United had. We need players that in the Arsenal lineup were the Jose Antonio Reyes, the Robin Van Persies, the Cesc Fabregas, the Carnus, the Wiltords, the Parlers, the Edus. We need those. Manchester City have got it now with Bernardo Silva's and Jack Grealish's and Mateus Nunes, who's now coming on to show. Julian Alvarez of last season that was there. Kovacic, who was there. We've not really got that with the Jesus and Sterlings and Kiviors of this world. And I feel like that is what we need to do in the summer and January transfer window. So I thought that was really key. Ben White, performing at centre-back, he was asked about him. Look, I'm a big fan of Ben White. I've never been a fan of him at centre-half, but I'm definitely a fan of him at right-back. And I absolutely loved his performance at the weekend at centre-back, I must say. He was asked about on how White performed at centre-back against Liverpool. He said that's Ben's quality. He can play in those two positions. And within those positions, he can adapt his role and play different heights, especially in ball possession. We're demanding against a very difficult, tricky opponent with very particular duels, especially in that section of the pitch. To do that job when he hasn't played there for over a year, I think he was really good. And I echo that. And again, I think he's a player that goes under the radar at how good of a signing he's been for Mikel Arteta. And people laughed when he was £50 million. But you wouldn't get a player of that quality now that can play at right back and centre back for £50 million that's that young, 23 he was at the time, and English. Mark Guehi, Newcastle had to pay nearly 75 million for him. Jared Branthwaite, Manchester United want him. Everton wants 70 plus million for him. We're talking about centre halves now that 5 years ago were probably 40 million. They're now nearly 70 million, which in 5 years means they're nearly doubling in their expense. Ben White was a phenomenal signing. He really was. Absolutely superb. So that's the way I look at Ben White. And one of my favourites, I've got to say. He's been fantastic. He was also asked on Newcastle's start to the season. The league position after 9 games is very tricky when you see the fixtures they've had. Certain situations they've been through as well. They're a fantastic team. Really well coached. Very intense. Great stadium to play in. You know what you're going to face there. We're looking forward to it. So am I. I love St James's Park. I love Newcastle as the city. I think it's the best city outside of London. I absolutely love going up there. and I've had great nights out there, whether it be with mates or at stag do's or socials, and great football nights out there. So for me, one of the best places to go. But we need to win the game, man. We need to win this game. He was then asked on Ruben Amorim becoming the Manchester United manager. He said he can't talk about that kind of situation, which is very respectful because he hasn't been announced yet. Obviously, he is going to be announced and he will be the Manchester United manager. So it'll be very interesting to see where Manchester United go against Chelsea this weekend under Ruud van Nistelrooy until Amorim takes over after the international break. He said on what it's like to be a young manager in Premier League. He said it was absolutely fantastic. It's great. And then we come to Ethan Nwaneri. This is where it starts to hot up. Now, I did a podcast on the Gooniverse with James from AFTV and Sharoy last night, which is out today. Very, very, very good podcast. Really enjoyed it. There's a lot discussed on Ethan Nwaneri on why we think he deserves a chance now. I would play him this game. I would play him. I think he deserves a reward now. I think he's proven with the cameos that he's ready to start now. He's passed every single test. He started against Bolton. He got a brace. He came on against Leicester. He lifted us. We won the game. He came on against Bournemouth at 2-0 down and was by far the best player on the pitch. He started the game against Preston, was clearly head and shoulders above anybody on the pitch. And what an unbelievable strike. It's time to start him in the 10. Now, what does that mean for Trossard and Martinelli? Drop one, bring one on. Put one on the left, bring the other one on the left. Done. Or if you don't think Ethan's ready for 60 minutes or plus, you take him off at 60 minutes and bring on Trossard or Martinelli. So that's how you do it for me. It has to be now. But Arteta was asked about him. They asked questions on the potential of Ethan Nwaneri. He said, I can talk about how good he is right now. At 17 years old, to be in a position like he is in one of the biggest clubs in Europe, I think it sums up really well the level that he's at. What is going to happen in the future is mainly going to depend on him and how much he wants it. At the moment, he wants it a lot, and he's surrounded by the right people. And then you'll need a crystal ball to see where he's going to be in a year, 2 years, 3 years. My prediction is going to be very positive. Now, I love this kid because he is doing it around players that are only a few years older than him. When Cesc Fabregas come through at Arsenal, he looked beside him and there was Vieira or Gilberto. In front of him was Bergkamp or Henry, and either side of him was Pires and Lundberg. Behind him, he had Sol Campbell, Ashley Cole, Lauren, Kolo Toure, and Jens Lehmann in goal. Fabregas was surrounded by experience and winners and leaders. Nwaneri is not, and he's head and shoulders above players. Now, people will say to me he's only done it at Preston and Bolton, and that's fine, that's facts. But he made more of an impact on the game than some of the experienced seniors around him. He did more than Sterling and Jesus on the night. He did more than Martinelli on the night. He did more than players in the Bolton game like Declan Rice and Saka when they started. He was the star, and that's why he deserves a start. Let's start rewarding these players because, trust me, he deserves it big time. On Ethan, he said, is he amongst the best young players that you've seen? Mikel said, it's rare to see a talent like this at 17 years old. That's true. But when we gave him his debut in the Premier League, there was a lot of talk about it. We didn't do it because he was a gift. We did it because we knew his pathway, and we wanted to build with him and wanted to send him a really strong sign about how much we trust him and how much we want him to stay with us. We are delighted to have him. Lots of things there that come out. Lots of things there to take from that. First of all, he's right. He saw him and identified him at a young age. He gave him an opportunity, glimpse of first-team football at 15 years old. And what that did was it sparked outrage from the media. This is arrogant from Arteta. This is all about Arteta. This is nothing to do with the kid. He doesn't care about Ethan Nwaneri, which is actually incorrect. Now, look, Arteta's made mistakes in the past. No doubt I'm the one to say that he has, right? And I've criticised him in the past for doing so. But Jason Cundy made a big statement there. There's not a lot he said that was actually genuinely wrong at the time because it couldn't be proven. It was all like hindsight stuff. The one thing he did get really wrong was he does not care about Ethan Nwaneri. I think Mikel Arteta has proved that he does. Now, he's definitely not given him enough minutes and he's not rewarded him enough, but he can't say he doesn't care about him when he's kept him in the first team squad and given him an opportunity to have some game time. So he definitely does care about his future. I think he is being a little bit too careful, though. I think he's a little bit worried that Ethan Nwaneri might be chucked in the deep end against St James's Park or against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. I don't think he will. He just looks confident. He looks fearless. He looks happy. He looks composed, calm. He doesn't look rash. You don't look at his performance and think, do you know what? He'll be good in a couple of years when he calms down a bit. I've not looked at that once with Ethan Nwaneri. So look, I've got to say, there's an absolute confidence and excitement that oozes around Ethan Nwaneri, and I'm really looking forward to see it. He was asked, Mikel, about the injuries of this season, and let's be real, we have had a lot. We've had to deal with a lot. Some of the other clubs have. Manchester City at the moment are depleted. And why there's a lot of injuries across the league this season, look, the obvious answer is they're playing too much football, right? They're playing too much international football. They're playing too many games in the Champions League. For me, I think what they need to do is they either need to do one of two things. They need to somehow look at reducing the number of games, or they need to increase the size of the squad to 30 plus players. That's what I think needs to happen now, because it's absolutely incredible. He says, I think there's two aspects. One, we've been unlucky with some of them, injuries he's talking about, and especially having them happen in very similar positions. Obviously, the demands that those players are having every week is difficult. If you put that into perspective as well, you have a smaller squad, because all the restrictions that are hitting all the clubs means you cannot have 30 quality players in the squad. And the moment one player has to play more minutes, it affects them. And there's a knock-on effect for the rest of the squad, which is quite difficult to manage. He's basically saying what I've just mentioned there. There either needs to be 30 players registered, not 25, or there needs to be less games. Now that there's more Champions League games, how do you do that? Well, you either look at the League Cup and FA Cup games, and you look at them being one leg and knock out straight away, take away replays in FA Cups, or you get rid of the Nations League, which is my preference. FA Cup replays are fantastic and have been a part of football for a long, long time. Why should it be fair that Arsenal draw against Oxford and then they don't get a chance to have a replay if it's 0-0? That should not be allowed. So for me, FA Cup stays as it is. Yeah. League Cup, if people are really believing that is not a cup that should be about anymore, I would be frustrated if they got rid of it, but so be it. But the Nations League is the one they have to get rid of. They absolutely have to get rid of that now. There is no need for to be playing international football. In fact, I'll say this. I don't think England or international football should be anything more than qualifiers and tournaments. I don't think friendlies should exist. I don't think Nations League should exist. We don't get friendlies before we play a Champions League. We have a pre-season of 5 games and then we play the whole year. You don't get in it for Champions League. We're just going to play a few friendlies before we go into the Champions League. So why are we having a few friendlies before we play the Euros and the World Cup? You should train. You should qualify for your games. They're your friendlies, your qualifiers, your togetherness, your experimenting against teams like Liechtenstein, who you should be beating anyway, and Moldova and Macedonia and Faroe Islands. You should be able to beat all of them. That's the way I see it. So that's where I'm at. Let's move. So he goes on to talk about protection of Ethan. He says, I think the biggest thing is to push him. And then when he's being pushed, you grab him right behind to make sure he's always stable and protected. With his talent, you have to push him, but the protection is necessary to keep an eye on him and be at the right distance. He needs to see that he can fly, and we don't need to clip any wings. Okay, he's basically saying he wants to be careful with him there. He wants to give him a little push, but be behind him just in case he falls behind. And I totally get what he's saying, but I think he needs to have more trust and belief in this kid. I really do, because I think he's special. He's asked on how helpful it is for him to have Saka, who's been on the same journey. He says, I think that creates belief in the building. Through the academy and all the young players we signed at a very early age. There's a pathway, it's clear, and we're going to have to give them opportunities. If they earn it, they'll be treated like the rest. And that is key, absolutely key. And he made a good point, actually, about him and Lewis Skelly being a part of the mix and how they're loving it and how he's enjoying it and how they're asking questions all day and enjoying the moment. And that's really key. Thomas Partey playing more minutes this season than last. This is a massive thing. He says the one thing we needed was Thomas to be at the level we wanted, certainly. He's working so hard to do what he's doing at the moment, and I think he's playing really well in different positions, different demands, and coping with it in a great way. Big player for us. Okay, I'm going to make a statement now. I think David Raya has been our player of the season so far. I think Thomas Partey has been our best player on field. Better than Saka, better than Havertz. I think he's been consistent at both right back and at number 6. I really think he's earned a new contract at the club. And people might laugh and say, what's going on? But I honestly believe it would not surprise me if we get a contract for him. And as you can see here, contract talks with Thomas Partey soon. He said he's only 31. He's in a really good place. And yeah, we're going to have discussions. Thomas Partey's going to sign a new contract to Arsenal, people. Who knew? Who knew? I thought he would be gone in the summer with Jorginho. But it looks like both of them could potentially stay. Now, Thomas Partey at 31, I totally appreciate he's not old. But his body has been broken for a long time. If he can keep run of games and fitness, I think he'll get a new contract. Jorginho, I actually expect to be given a new contract, but going into more of a coaching role and just being a little bit like an El Neni next season. He doesn't really play much. In fact, I expect Jorginho to be a little bit like Elneny this season, where we give him a few games in the Carabao Cups and the FA Cups. That'll be about it. And maybe when we need him, we call upon him. But Thomas Partey has been different. He's been one of the best midfielders in the league this season. He's been absolutely superb. He really has. So, going to be interesting. He said on his own talent at the age of 17 compared to Ethan, he says, I was not at that level. I was really lucky as well because somebody trusted me at that age and gave me the opportunity, which is what they need as well. For the talent to emerge, somebody has to give you that chance. You have to give you that belief, and then you have to be surrounded by the right team, the right players. And if you do that, you have a chance. And I think he's believing that Ethan is going to make it. What he can apply to Ethan from his own experiences, he said, individually, a lot of things I should have done that I learned. If I can give him great advice, great. What I like about him is he really believes that he has the ability to do it. He really believes he's capable of taking anybody's place, and he's earned the right and trust of his teammates, which I think is vital for a teenager coming through. Absolutely. He talks about the physical step up to Premier League matches. He says it's a huge jump. We need to understand where he's coming from and if he had any issues in the past 3 or 5 years in his growth and development. Physical side, as is the mental side, the tactical side is really important to take care of because a lot of goes through the roof straight away without you knowing. Then you look back and say, look what he's done in the last 4 months compared to the last 18 months. We need to keep an eye on that. And if his meditation helps him with refereeing decisions. On the touchline, I haven't got to that point of meditating more. Maybe it's something that has to happen. I just want the best for the team. I want to give the team the best chance to be as competitive as they can to win the majority of football matches. I know that when they change the rules on certain behaviours on touchlines, we need to evolve, and that's what I try to do. I think he has calmed down Mikel Arteta. I think he's become a little bit more mature. I don't think there's been any doubt in my mind that Mikel Arteta was a little bit extreme and over the top at times last season and the season before on the touchline. I can understand why rival teams and rival managers disliked some of his antics. It was extreme, but he isn't the only manager that does it, guys. And this is what I will say in his defence. He isn't the only manager that doesn't run up and down the touchline. Jurgen Klopp used to do it. Unai Emery did it at Arsenal. The only manager, in fact, that doesn't do it, and there's more, is the old school managers like Arsene Wenger, like Sir Alex Ferguson. Even Jose Mourinho, he went running down the touchline once at Porto, but he never really seen him do much more unless he was doing it for the cameras. So for me, there needs to be a level of consistency throughout. Mikel has definitely calmed down. He says he doesn't want to miss any games. He can't promise if you score a goal, he won't be jumping up and down the touchline. He can't guarantee it, but hopefully as well, referees have adapted and understood that emotions are a big part of that. He can't control himself in one square line, but so far it's worked. Then he was asked on 2 players, Ben White and Takehiro Tomiyasu, who everyone's forgotten about. Ben White's issue, is it a groin injury? He says no, it's related to more of a joint problem. That's a problem. That's an issue. That's a concern. That's a worry. Because if it is just a muscle, then normally the physio can sort of give you some treatment and you'll be okay. If it's a joint issue, that sounds a little bit more complex. So will Ben White feature this weekend? We'll have to see whether he takes part in training. And then he's asked when Tomiyasu might be back. He said he doesn't expect to see him or for him to be available before the international break, unfortunately. What is happening with Tomiyasu and what is actually wrong with him? Does anybody know what is wrong with Tomiyasu? It's a knee problem. It's a shoulder problem. It's a calf problem. In fact, it isn't shoulders. It's always been knees and legs with him. Hamstrings and calves and knees and joints. I'm worried about Tomiyasu because, let's be real, Tomiyasu is a player that at 25 years old should not be getting this many injuries. And he actually got injuries at Bologna, but no one spoke about it. And it was the same injuries. It's all to do with lower body, legs, calves, hamstrings, quads, knees, joints, ankles. What is it with him? What is it with Tomiyasu? It's absolutely mad. But he needs to be back because he's a player I really like. It's frustrating when you get a player like him, Tierney, players that I like that are injured, obviously Partey. It's never been not good enough. It's always been injury prone, and that's the issue. Coming to the end, he talked about Inter Milan next week and the possibility for Martin Odegaard to be back. Now, this is really key. Now is the stage when he'll do certain work with us. Let's see how he deals with the pain. If he moves naturally enough, if he's physical now at the level that requires him to compete, with the work rate and the hours he's put in, I'll be surprised at the moment he starts training with us, we don't say that he looks ready. Hopefully soon. Odegaard could be back. Now, I don't think he's back this weekend. He's already confirmed that he'll be out this weekend. But he could be back for the Inter Milan game, whether that's on the bench or starting. I expect him to be starting ready fit against Chelsea next weekend. That's what I'm expecting. I hope he's back because we need him. We have missed him. We've missed his creativity. We've missed his vision. We've missed that weight of pass, that delivery. We've missed that cutting on his left and having a shot and threading passes through. I think we've missed his press, if I'm honest. I like Trossard, but I don't think he presses anywhere near to the level of Odegaard. And I think he leads by the example of the press. He leads by the press. And also what he does is he brings his leadership qualities to the ground, which is very much leading by example. I love Martin Odegaard, and I hope that he's back soon. I really do. So let's see. He was asked on how he reflected on Newcastle's goal against us last season. I didn't stop on that sequence when I watched it back. It's already in my hard drive. I didn't want to go through that again. Very well answered. He's asked also on if he's received harsher treatment from referees. No, every club has a history with games and situations and comments as part of the game. We have to understand it for what it is. Every decision I make is going to get criticised. Or they understand or don't understand it. It's part of the game. We're always going to have opinions about the job, and that is normal. He was also asked lastly on if there's any lasting consequence from that incident at St James's Park. No, hopefully we're past it. We talked through it in depth, and that's done. A year in football is a long, long time. I thought it was a really good press conference from Mikel Arteta. I thought it was one that I agreed with a lot. I thought there was a lot in there to divulge, particularly around Liverpool and the injuries we've had, particularly around the seasons, how it started and the injuries we've had. Thought he touched on players coming back and it looked quite exciting and potentially good for the likes of Gabriel and Odegaard. At the moment, Ben White being assessed, Calafiori and Tomiyasu may be back after the international break. So it's looking good. Arsenal getting their first team back, right? Arsenal are looking to be happy with what they've got so far. Their squad definitely, in my opinion, is looking very healthy at the moment. And only a couple of injuries now that we're talking about. And, you know, a lot of people at the moment are looking decimated. We've got Manchester City at the moment, whose bench consists of Ortega and one more sub that you'd heard of. The others are McAtee, O'Reilly, and all these guys, Jacob Wright, that no one's really heard of. So at the moment, Man City have only really got about 12 players, which is absolutely madness. But they have got a small squad like Arsenal. Arsenal and City have got two of the smallest squads in the league. So they get a few injuries. Ain't going to be good, is it? They're going to be good. So let's see what happens there. Look, I'm going to go through the team news of what I think what my team would be, and then what I think the team should be, if that makes any sense. So look, I think we go into the scenario of having a lineup that we think is probably going to be similar to what we saw at Liverpool. But it might be that there's some changes, and I would make a couple of changes. But that's just me. You might have a difference. Arteta will definitely have a difference of opinion. So let's bring it up on the screen and let's go through it together. Let's build our team together, shall we? Can we all see that? Yes, we can. It's a little bit small. I do apologise. I might be able to make it a little bit bigger, actually. Here we go. Whoops, that's too big now. Technology, eh? There we go. Hopefully that'll make a little bit of a difference, but we'll see. Okay. Look, the goalkeeper is obviously going to be David Raya. That's for sure. We're going to have a back four. And that back four, I think, will be Ben White, Saliba, who's back now from suspension. Thank God. Let's spell his name right, though. I think Gabriel's fit. I'm going to go with Gabriel being fit. If he's not, it'll be Kivior. But I'm going to go with Gabriel being fit. And then I think the left back will be Timber. Now, let's just stop there for a second, right? Let's just stop there for 1 second. I think some people disagree, right? But I think this is our best back four. I do. I think it's better than Calafiori, and I'll tell you why. Timber can lock up any right winger. Timber can lock up any left winger. So he can play as a fullback on both sides. And I think he is our best option at right back or left back. I think Ben White's our best option at right back. And I think Gabriel and Saliba are clearly the partnership that you do not want to break up. When we have had these four, we've kept more clean sheets than any other game this season. We kept clean sheets first game of the season against Wolves, although Zinchenko did start the game. This was then brought on as the back four. Then we had games against Villa, clean sheet, Spurs, clean sheet. And there's another one we had that had a clean sheet, which completely lost me. But there's the 4 or 5 clean sheets we've had throughout the whole of this season. There's only been one game against PSG where we kept a clean sheet, where this back four didn't play. All the other times, it was this back four that kept that clean sheet. That's why I want to see these four. I want to see these four. I hope Ben White's fit. We'll come on to ways in which we can change it if he's not fit in a little while. For me, I think we now need to look at the trio that we want in midfield, and this is going to be very, very interesting. I think Thomas Partey has been one of our best players, so I would play him in the 6, right? I play Rice ahead of Merino, and then I would actually play Nwaneri. That would be my 3 in midfield. But, if Ben White is not fit, then Partey will go right back. And then what that will mean is Rice will go in the 6, Merino will go in the 8, and then I think it will be Nwaneri or Trossard. So I'm going to change it to Trossard. And we'll go now with what I think Mikel Arteta will do, right? That's what I think he will do. Then we've got our front 3, and I think we all know what it's going to probably look like. It's going to be Havertz through the middle. It's going to be Martinelli. And it's going to be Saka. So, we know Raya's in goal. Let's show you the rest of the team. That's what I think he'll go with, people. What would I do? I would have, instead of Trossard, I would have Ethan Nwaneri, and I'd bring Trossard on the left. I would have Rice and Partey, not Rice and Merino. And that is if White stays at right back. However, if White is not fit, I would go with this. But I'd have Nwaneri starting here instead of Trossard. But that would be the only change I have. And that's what I would do. You bring on Trossard then, you bring on Jesus, you bring on Sterling, and there's an opportunity to go from there. That is what I would do. Some people are asking about Saliba. Saliba only had 1 game suspension, which is why he played against Preston the other night. He did not have a 3-game ban like some people thought. It was only a red card for a last man. If it's a violent conduct, it's 3 games out. If it's last man or a second yellow, then yeah, it is a 1-game ban. And that's what he had. So his suspension is over. So we have Saliba. So look, that's the team I expect. You can't see Raya on the screen, but obviously he's in goal. You've got Thomas Partey at right back. This is if Ben White is out. Saliba, Gabriel and Timber make up the back 4. Declan Rice in the 6, Merino in the 8, Trossard in the 10, which I would love to see Nwaneri start there, but I don't think he will. And then Saka, Havertz and Martinelli. You've then got Nwaneri to bring on, Lewis Skelly to bring on. You've got Zinchenko if you want to bring him into the 8 mix. You've got Jorginho if you need to, Jesus, Sterling that can both come on as well. That's where we're at right now, people. That's what we have got. Now, let's just bring this off the screen for a sec. Newcastle, where can they be got at? They're going to have Pope in goal. It's going to be Livramento at right back. And it's going to be Lewis. What's his name? What is his name? Lewis Hall at left back. Who's actually been very good for Newcastle. And he's definitely knocking on the door for the England call-up for sure with Tariq Mitchell at the moment. Because our left back situation is dire. It can't be Shaw and Chilwell still. It's absolutely horrendous. Newcastle have got a decision to make with Dan Burn or Lloyd Kelly. Because Dan Burn, I think, for set pieces at Arsenal will probably start alongside Fabian Schär. Sven Botman's still out. In midfield, Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes and Joe Linton. Now, they haven't really got a creative midfielder, but they have got Joe Willock, who played well last season and obviously knows Arsenal very well, being a former player of ours. They could play Willock there and Joe Linton on the left and then Gordon on the right and Isak up top. But I think they'll probably go with Isak and Barnes, either side of with Gordon and Barnes, either side of Isak, and then play Joe Linton further forward, Bruno in the 8 and Tonali in the 6. Their back line, I think, will be Dan Burn and Fabian Schär, with Livramento and Lewis Hall, and then Pope in goal. That's what I think their 11 will be. Now, where can we get at them? Well, Saka can definitely give Lewis Hall some problems, and Martinelli can definitely give Livramento problems. So wide areas for us for sure, but our midfield can dominate theirs, and I'll tell you why. I think all 3 of them are very good players. I think Tonali's a baller. I think Bruno's a baller. I think Joe Linton's a baller. But I think Declan Rice and Thomas Partey, or Declan Rice and Merino, have the physical presence to get up against them. I'm not sure that we did last season. We had Jorginho, Havertz, and Odegaard last season. And it was getting pushed around and bullied a bit. If you remember, Bruno G should have been sent off for elbowing Jorginho in the head. Havertz was coming up against Joe Linton and was having a tangle with him, which was a clear foul on Joe Linton by Kai Havertz. And Odegaard was getting bullied really and taken out of the game. Jorginho not winning his battles. I think we can win that midfield battle this time. I think we can, and I think we have to. I really think we have to. So I think we need to look at it realistically. I think we need to be honest with ourselves about where we're stronger. Saka down that right-hand side is an issue. Martinelli needs a big game if he plays on that left. He needs a big game. He was quiet against Preston, quiet against Liverpool. He's been one of our weaker links over the last few games, and he needs now to start improving because I need to see goals from him. I really do. Look, what do I think is going to happen tomorrow score-wise? I think it's going to be an old-school physical battle on the field, tackles flying in, and I think Arsenal win this 1-0. 1-0 to the Arsenal. That's where I'm going. That is where I am going. Let's do a super chat to close. Big up Max and Dan. Big up to Max and big up to you, Suj. Congrats on 26.1k subscribers. Look at the channel doing things. Hit the like and subscribe. Happy Diwali for yesterday. Listen, happy Diwali for yesterday to everybody. And of course, happy Halloween to everybody. We are now in November, people. Incredible. Fireworks will be going off if they haven't been already. We'll be getting closer and closer to Christmas decorations, that's for sure. Big up to every single one of you. Thank you so much for allowing us to hit 26,100 overnight. Absolutely crazy from you guys. We're going to be at 30k in no time. Hit the like and the subscribe button. It's really important that you do that. Both free buttons. Please make sure you click on the link in the pinned comments or in the description for Manscaped. Get your beard hedgers. They're 20% off now. Use the code FTM20 when it asks for the voucher code and you'll get that discount 20% off, which is madness at the moment for Christmas. So please make sure you don't miss out on that at manscaped.com. Big up to all of you. We've got some scores. We've got 1-0 to the Arsenal. Bo agrees with me. We've got Seth who's saying 2-0 to the Arsenal. Nathan saying Kai Havertz on the 43. I guess that's what you believe will happen. Nathan 1-0, Nando 1-0, and Lufan 1-0. A lot of people saying 1-0 to the Arsenal and agreeing with me. So let's hope that we're right. So yeah, absolutely legend. Suj, you're a legend for your super chat. Thank you all so much for your comments. Please make sure you do me a favor, hit the like and the subscribe button. We'll be back at 5 p.m. people for a weekend preview on Arsenal, Newcastle, Manchester United and Chelsea, and we will touch on Tottenham and Villa as well. Big up to every single one of you. Take it easy. We're out of here. Make sure you show Manscaped some love and check this out with the user code FTM20. See you next time.
Yes, people, Manscaped is back, but this time it's not for below the belt grooming. Manscaped brings to you the Beard Hedger, the best product on the market when it comes to beard trimmers. The Beard Hedger is unique due to its number of radiant sayers. As someone who's purchased this, I won't turn to any other beard trimmer. Check it out for yourself at manscaped.com. And don't forget to use code FTM20 to get 20% off of this product.